I'm taking you back to the mid-1970s when immigrant workers in France, housed in buildings known as foyers or workers' hostels, decided to take a stand.
Le gérant, il est face à la porte.
An employee from the housing company was always stationed outside the front door. He wouldn't allow anyone in, even if it was your family, your father, brother, your son, cousin, friend, nobody. There was no freedom.
Mohammed Kherbachi, alongside thousands of residents living in foyers across the country, stopped paying rent.
All the foyers in France, all the way to Marseille, to the border with Germany, Italy, Spain, all the foyers in France took part.
Hundreds of foyers were built between the 1950s and the 1970s. It was the post-war era, and the French economy was booming. When Mohammed first arrived, he found himself in a suburb of Paris called Argenteuil.
It was the 3rd of August 1973. I was 26 years old. In France, I joined my older brother. He'd come in 1962. He paid my rent the first couple of months, and then I found work. I stayed 2 years without going back. I was waiting for my residency card. Back home, my wife and 3 children were waiting for me.
Mohammed was born in Algeria just after World War II ended in 1947. He grew up in a hamlet called Kassabia in the governorate of Borj Bouarerij. Back then, Algeria was still under French colonial rule.
I worked with my father, working the land, herding the sheep, the cows, the horses. It's the mountains, the countryside. There is nothing, no money. You need to work the land to make a living. Occasionally, we'd slaughter a sheep and have some meat. But there were no fresh fruits or anything, because there were no paved roads for merchants to get to where we lived.
France ruled the country with an iron fist.
France squashed Algeria. They reduced us to slavery.
In 1954, when Mohammed was around 7, the war for Algerian independence broke out. During those years, he remembers the French army encircling the area. Anyone who tried to leave without permission risked being shot.
I saw many things. We had no shoes, no clothes. We lived in poverty. Young people dying, going into prison. There were many orphans. Women unable to feed their families. They killed my cousin, my mother's family, my wife's family. Nothing happened to my family because my father had fought for France in World War II. Once I went to graze the animals with a few other boys. They shot at us several times with tanks. I went to hide by the river with another boy. We didn't move until the afternoon. The 3 other boys were killed. The animals too. I lost a cow and 2 sheep. I must have been 11 or 12.
This is Peter Woods calling Radio Newsreel from the heart of Algiers. This is the noise that is echoing round Algiers at the moment. Today celebrating in advance the announcement of the Independence Proclamation.
It was in 1962. Mohammed was 15.
There were huge celebrations. Vive l'Algérie! To hell with France! We went to buy food to other villages. Everyone was dancing, shouting. Now Algeria is an independent country.
Despite the fraught relationship between Algeria and France, Mohammed felt there was no other choice but to seek work in the metropole, and he was far from alone. By 1975, there were around 550,000 Algerians living in France. In the 50s and 60s, many of these immigrants ended up living in shanty towns around big cities.
There were many foyers in this area, west and north of Paris. It was the industrial zone. There were factories making cars, cables, lots of things.
Soon, Mohammed found work at a car factory. In addition to solving the issue of the shanty towns, activists say that the foyers were also a way for the state to survey and control immigrants, especially Algerians. One of the main companies building the foyer was Sonacotral, short for National Company for the Construction of Housing for Algerian Workers, and it hired former soldiers to man the foyer.
Avant, il y a beaucoup de racisme.
Before the strike, there was a lot of racism. Sometimes housing management would call the police and they would immediately evict a resident. The management company used to carry out inspections in our rooms. You could never leave anything of value.
The Sonacotral, later Sonacotra foyer, became known as foyer prison, prison foyer. In the 1970s, big changes were underway. The 1973 oil crisis sent shockwaves worldwide. Growth slowed and unemployment soared. In France, attitudes and policies towards immigrants began to harden. But Mohammed and his fellow workers in the Sonacotra-run foyer were determined to fight back.
Little by little, we started organizing, speaking among ourselves, and seeing who was on board. The rent was high, our salaries were low. Each month they'd increase the rent. And so we went on a strike in 1975.
Individual foyers joined one by one, and quickly the strike gained momentum.
We demanded freedom. We said enough with racism, of the housing company, of police, enough with the evictions. We demanded equality before the law. We demanded housing, work, equal pay.
They were highly organized, with a coordination committee steering the strike effort and delegates in each foyer.
The delegates used to go from foyer to foyer talking to residents. Every weekend we'd meet, talk, gather money to pay for the lawyers, the tracts, and for transport for the delegates. The communists helped us too to find good lawyers and so on. Every couple of weeks, we'd meet the director to try and negotiate a solution to end the strike. But he was hard-headed. He wouldn't accept our demands.
Throughout the strike, police sometimes cracked down, clearing out entire foyers. Some delegates were even deported. But Mohammed also remembers some happy moments.
All the foyers took part. The city was full. The metros, the trams, the buses.
There were protests nearly every weekend.
I don't know how many hours we walked.
The strike lasted around 5 years. At its peak, around 20,000 residents are estimated to have stopped paying rent. Negotiations took place foyer by foyer. Residents gained visitation rights, they gained the right to assembly, but to this day, they don't enjoy standard tenant rights. But Mohammed still feels it transformed his life.
After the strike, everything changed. We had freedom, dignity, fraternity, and equality.
More than 50 years after he arrived in France, Mohammed, who's approaching 80, still lives in a foyer.
Since 1973 until now, I have been here alone. My children far away, and my wife forced to get by on her own. I regret this a lot. Now I'm an old man. I'm tired. I must go back home.
Mohammed Kherbachi shared his story with me, Caroline Lambelet, for the Witness History podcast. It was a Whistledown production for the BBC World Service. If you've enjoyed listening, why not leave us a review? And please share it with anyone you think would like to hear it. It really helps in letting people know about the incredible stories people tell us on Witness History.
A moment in time captured by what they heard.
I heard some people making phone calls.
Okay, which runway would you like at Teterboro?
We're going to be in
What they saw.
I put my head down. I saw the movie of my life start going through my head.
What they smelt.
I still remember the smell of the fresh fish.
And I completely lost my appetite.
Moments captured which last for a lifetime.
Scientists have made the atomic bomb.
That sort of flash set on fire the birds, and they all fell down without their feathers on.
The way was clear for Hitler to realize all his demonic plans.
Stories from people with first-hand accounts of events that have shaped our world.
At the end, Kissinger called me into his office and he said, "You did a good job." I left the office with tears in my eyes.
She called me and told me, I'm doing Studio 54. She had already become a star in Paris. She came back a superstar.